Welcome to Introduction to Fiction, offered by the London College of International Studies. I'm Dr. Mohammed Al-Wishi, and I'll be your guide through this fascinating exploration of storytelling. Over the next sessions, I'll cover how fiction works, why it matters, and how to analyze it with a scholarly depth. Now let's go to course outline. Why study fiction? The power of storytelling. What is fiction? Define the genre. The elements of fiction. Plot. The elements of fiction characters. The elements of fiction setting. The elements of fiction theme. The elements of fiction point of view. Cultural and historical context in fiction. Critical approaches to fiction. Reading and analyzing fiction strategies for students. Writing about fiction, literary analysis, essays, researching authors to literary criticism, sample fiction works for study, common challenges and how to overcome them, conclusion, final thoughts, and next steps. Learning objectives, understand the fundamental building blocks of fiction, plot, character, setting, theme, and the point of view, and how they work together to create meaningful narratives. Examine how authors strategically use literary elements to craft stories that resonate, challenge, and inspire readers across cultures and generations. Investigate the cultural and historical context that shape fictional works. Understand how literal and literature both reflects and transforms its time. Build sophisticated interpretations and evaluation skills that enable you to read fiction with depth, notes, and scholarly reader. Learning outcomes, recognize and articulate key elements of fiction across various texts, from classical novels to contemporary short stories, demonstrating a comprehensive understanding of how these elements function. Analyze the significance of authors and their works within literary traditions, understanding how individual voices contribute to broader cultural conversations. Analyze dramatic texts and live performance critically and contextually. Consider artistic choices and the cultural significance. Apply cultural, historical, and critical perspectives to interpretive fiction, revealing multiple layers of meaning and engaging with diverse scholarly approaches. Write clear evidence-based literary analysis essays that present compelling arguments supported by external evidence and sophisticated reasoning. Conduct scholarly research on authors and their fiction, synthesizing findings into polished presentation that engage and inform your audience. Why study fiction? The power of storytelling. Why does fiction matter? This isn't merely an academic question. It's fundamental to understanding human cultural approach. Fiction is far more than entertainment. It's a fundamental way humans make sense of existence. Through stories, we explore complex emotions that resist simple description. We examine ethical dilemmas without real-world consequences. We understand social structures through character interactions rather than abstract theories. Fiction creates safe spaces for experiencing perspectives radically different from our own. When you read from a character's viewpoint, you temporarily inhabit their consciousness. This builds empathy and understanding across enormous boundaries, cultural, temporal, and social. Consider what pure analysis cannot capture. What does injustice feel like? How does grave transform someone? what drives people to act against their own interests. Fiction shows us these experiences from the inside. That's power analysis alone cannot achieve. Then let's go to the study of fiction develops critical cognitive skills. Fiction study involves critical cognitive skills extending far beyond literature courses. When you analyze how a character's motivations drive plot, you're practicing casual reasoning. When you interpret symbolic meaning in settings, you're recognizing how surface details point toward the deeper significance. When you question authorial assumptions, you're developing critical thinking. When you construct arguments about them, you're building persuasive communication skills. These aren't soft skills, they're essential competences in histories. In history, psychology, business law, medicine, and countless other fields. A doctor interpreting patient narratives, a lawyer constructing case arguments, a business leader understanding organizational culture, um, a historian analyzing primary resources and sources, all use interpretive skills owned through fiction study. Fiction teaches pattern recognition, symbolic interpretation, as you mentioned, questioning or assumption, questioning and argument construction. These abilities are invaluable in any career or life situation where understanding human behavior and the motivation matters. Why study fiction? For key benefits. Let me emphasize four specific benefits of studying fiction: cultural understanding. Fiction shapes how we understand human experiences across cultures. It reveals universal truths, love, loss, ambition, fear, while celebrating unique perspectives and traditions. Reading Nigerian fiction differs from reading Japanese fiction, but both illuminate what it means to be human. Emotional intelligence, stories can connect us emotionally and intellectually across time and space. They develop our capacity for empathy and nuanced emotional understanding. You learn to recognize complex emotional states and understand how feelings motivate behavior. Essential skills. Fiction enhances critical thinking, empathy, and communication skills crucial for academic success and professional achievement. Employers consistently rank these among the most valued competencies. Real world readiness, engaging with fiction prepares you for the diverse challenges from complex problem solving to cross-cultural communication in our globalized world. Understanding diverse perspectives isn't optional, it's essential. What is fiction? Defining the genre. Now let's define our subject precisely. What is fiction? Fiction is the art of imaginative storytelling narratives created from the author's imagination rather than strictly factual accounts. This doesn't mean fiction is lies or made up nonsense. That's a fundamental misunderstanding. Fiction may draw inspiration from real events, people, or places, but it transforms these almost through creative invention to explore deeper truths about human nature and society. A historical novel might feature real events, but fictional characters or real people in imagined scenarios. The imagination serves truth seeking, not truth avoiding. Fiction encompasses a vast range of forms. The compact intensity of short stories, typically under 10,000 words, offers focused exploration of single effects or moments. Novellas provide mid-length development. Novels allow expansive worlds with complex plots, multiple characters, and intricate themes developing over hundreds of pages. Each form offers unique opportunities for narrative exploration. Short stories must achieve impact efficiently. Novels can develop ideas gradually with multiple plot lines and character arcs. Understanding fiction requires clarifying its relationship to truth. Uh, the distinction between fiction and nonfiction lies not in truth versus falsehoods, but in the relationships between text and reality. Nonfiction seeks to document and explain actual events, people, and ideas. It's accountable to factual accuracy in specific ways. Fiction uses invented scenarios to eliminate universal experiences and insights. Biography tells you what someone did. It documents a specific action and events. A novel shows you what it means to be human, to explore the interior experience of existence. Both contain truth, but they arrive at it through different paths. Historical nonfiction might tell you about World War II's events. A novel like All Quit on the Western Front shows you what war feels like. Psychologically, both are valuable, both offer truth. The paths differ, not the destination. Historical developments. Fiction has evolved dramatically across centuries. Understanding this evolution helps us appreciate contemporary forms. Fiction doesn't begin with the novel, it emerged from ancient oral storytelling traditions. Epic poems like the Odyssey, folk tales passed through generations, religious narratives explaining existence. These established narrative patterns while influencing contemporary fiction. Written texts gradually replaced oral performance. The novel as we recognize it emerged in the 18th century. Works like Defoe's Robinson Crusoe's and Richardson's Pamela established the conventions of extended prose narrative focused on individual experience. Short stories gained prominence in the 19th century, particularly in marginalized or magazines, reaching wide audiences. Writers like Poe, Hawthorne, and Chekhov refined the form's techniques. Today's fiction continues innovating, incorporating new technologies, digital storytelling, interactive narratives, multimedia elements while maintaining its essential purpose, telling stories that matter, illuminating human experience through imaginative narrative. Major forms. Let's distinguish fiction major forms by length and scope. Short stories, compact narratives typically under 10,000 words, focusing on single effects or moments. Think of short stories as snapshots. They capture one significant moment, emotion, or revelation with intensity. Examples include Shirley Jackson's The Lottery or Edgar Allan Poe's The Telltale Heart. Novellas, mid-length work between 10,000 and 40,000 words, offering more depth than short stories, but more focus than novels. They can develop a single plotline thoroughly without extensive subplots. Examples include Kafka's The Metamorphoses or Conrad's Heart of Darkness. Novels, extended narratives allowing complex plots and multiple characters. and intricate themes. Novels have a space to develop parallel storylines, large casts of characters, and multiple thematic concerns. Examples include um, Tolstoy's War and Peace or Madison's Beloved. Each form demands different reading strategies and offers different pleasures. Understanding these distinctions helps us adjust your expectation and analytical approach appropriately. Four major categories. I'm speaking about genres. So within these forms, fiction divides into various genres, categories defined by subject matter and conventions. Literary fiction focuses on character development, stylistic sophistication, and thematic depth. Literary fiction often explores complex psychological and social issues, prioritizing artistic achievement, power plot, driven entertainment. Think of authors like Virginia Woolf, James Baldwin, or Kazao Ashgoro. Is speculative fiction includes science fiction, fantasy, and magical realism, genres using imaginative elements to explore possibilities beyond everyday reality. These aren't um, escapist in any negative sense. They use impossible scenarios to examine real questions. Ursula Le Guin's science fiction explores gender and politics. Gabriel Garcia Marquez' magical realism examines history and memory. Historical fiction since stories in past eras, blending factual historical contexts with invented characters and the plots. The best historical fiction illuminates bygone times while remaining relevant to contemporary concern. Think of Hilary Mantel's Wolf Hall trilogy or Toni Morrison's Beloved. Uh, Mystery thriller emphasizes suspense, problem solving, and revelation. These genres engage readers through puzzles, danger, and dramatic tension. Examples include Agatha Christie's detective novels or contemporary psychological thrillers. The elements of fiction plots. Now we turn to fiction's fundamental elements, beginning with plots. Plot is a carefully constructed sequence of events forming any story's backbone. This seems simple. Plot is what happens, but it's far more sophisticated than that. Plot the author's strategic arrangement of incidents to create meaning, build tension, and deliver emotional impact. It's not just this happened, this happened, then this happened. It's this happened because this happened, leading to this sequence, which forces this choice. Understanding plot structure helps readers recognize how authors manipulate time Stories do not have to proceed chronologically. Flashbacks, flash forward, and non-linear narratives serve specific purposes. Authors control cause and effect relationships, showing which events produce which sequences. They manipulate reader expectations, fulfilling some predictions while subverting others. Plot structure is craftsmanship. Authors make deliberate choices about which events to show, which to summarize, which to reveal. When these choices shape meaning and emotional response, studying plot means understanding these strategic decisions. Plot structure, 5 stages. Most plot follow a 5-stage structure through within, though within in infinite variations. Exposition, the opening establishes character settings and initial situation, providing context readers need to understand what follows. Think of exposition as orientation. Here is who we are following, where we are, what's normal before complications arise. In The Great Gatsby, exposition introduces Nick Carraway, his move to Wig Egg, and his mysterious neighbor Gatsby. Rising action, complications, and conflict develop, building tension as characters face obstacles and stakes increase progressively. This is typically the longest section. It's where most story happens. Each complication builds on previous ones, escalating tension toward crisis. In Romeo and Juliet, rising action includes their correct marriage, tablet death, Romeo's punishment, each move, each event worsening their situation, climax, the story turning point, a moment of greatest tension where the central conflict reaches peak intensity. Everything has been building toward this moment. Decisions made here determine everything following. To kill a mockingbird, the climax in the trial verdict on Robinson's conviction despite clear evidence of innocence. Falling action, consequences of the climax unfold as the story begins moving towards resolution. Loose ends start tying together. Characters deal with climax results. In Hamlet's falling action includes the final duel and the multiple death following Hamlet's decisive action. Resolution, conflicts are resolved or deliberately left unresolved, providing closure and revealing the story's ultimate meaning. Resolution doesn't always mean happy ending. It means a story reaching a stable point there where readers understand outcomes and significance. Example, Cinderella's universal plots. Let's apply this structure to a familiar story everyone knows, Cinderella. Exposition. Introducing Cinderella's difficult situation with her step family. We learn she's been reduced to servant status in her own home, mistreated by stepmother and stepsisters. This establishes the initial problem requiring resolution. Rising action includes multiple complications. First, the invitation to the ball arrives. Opportunity arises, but seems impossible given her situation. Then the fairy godmother intervenes with magical transformation, problem apparently solved, but with crucial midnight deadline creating new tension. She attains the ball and captivates the prince. Progress towards happy ending, but the clock is ticking. Climax occurs at midnight when Cinderella must flee, losing her slipper. This is the story's turning point, the moment of greatest tension. Will she escape without revealing her identity? Will she lose everything The lost lever becomes the crucial plot element enabling resolution. Following action involves the prince's search for the sliver's owner. He's determined to find the mysterious woman. Tension remains. Will he find her? Will the Stib family interfere? Resolution comes when the sliver fits Cinderella. Her true identity is revealed and they marry. Conflict resolves. uh, Equilibrium is restored at the higher level. She is recognized and rewarded. This structure has resonated across cultures for centuries because it effectively builds anticipation and delivers satisfying emotional payoff. Pattern feels right because it mirrors how we experience challenges in life. Initial problem, complications, crisis, consequences, resolution. Activity plot structure exercise. Before we continue, here an exercise to cement your understanding of plot structure. Choose a family story, perhaps a movie you've seen or a fairy tale you know, and identify the five stages of plot structure. Where does the climax occur? How does the author create tension during rising action? This exercise develops your ability to recognize plot patterns in any narration and in any narrative. You'll discover that once you understand this structure, you see it everywhere in films, television, novels, even news stories. This pattern is fundamental to how humans structure experience. Spend a few minutes on this before we proceed. You might choose Harry Potter, The Lion King, Little Red Riding Hood, or any story you know well. Break it into five stages and notice how each stage functions. Then let's go to the elements of fiction characters. Now we turn to the second fundamental element, characters are fictions, beating hearts, the beings whose desires, fears, choices, and chooses and transformations. The beings whose desires, fears, choices, and transformations drive stories forward and create emotional connections with readers. Without compelling characters, the plot becomes mechanical. Events happen, but we do not care. Well-crafted characters feel authentic because they possess complexity, contradiction, and depth. Just like real people, they're not simple heroes or villains, but complicated individuals with mixed motivation. They make decisions that reveal their value, um, sometimes acting against their stated beliefs. They face conflicts that test their limits. They evolve or fail to evolve through their experiences. Understanding character development helps readers to appreciate how authors create the illusion of life on the page. Characters aren't real people, but skilled authors make them feel real through carefully selected desires, revealing actions, authentic dialogue, and psychological depth. When you care about what happens to character or a character, when you understand why they make choices, when you feel their emotions, this is the magic of characterization at work. Then let's go to character types. Characters serve different functions within narratives. Let's distinguish major types. Protagonists, the central character whose journey we follow, typically facing the story's primary conflict and undergoing significant development. The protagonist isn't always the good guy. They're simply the focal character. Think of Hamlet, Elizabeth Bennet, or Katniss Everdeen. We experience the story through their perspective or closely follow their journey. Antagonistic. Opposition to protagonists, not necessarily villainous, but providing the conflict and obstacles that drive plot forward. Antagonists can be other characters, social forces, nature, or even aspects of the protagonist's own psychology. In Moby Dick, the whale is the antagonist in 1984. The party is antagonist in the strange case of Dr. Jekyll and the Mr. Hyde. The protagonist's dark side is antagonist. Dynamic characters, individuals who change significantly during the story, learning, growing, or transforming through experiences and the choices. Most protagonists are dynamic. Their journey involves change. Scout Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird loses innocence and gains a moral understanding that it's a dynamic change. Static characters, figures who remain essentially unchanged, often serving specific plot functions or representing consistent values or perspectives. Static doesn't mean unimportance. Attic's finish To Kill a Mockingbird is largely static. His moral principle remains constant, providing steady guidance for Scout's development. Now let's move to example Hamlet's complexity. Let's examine character complexity through Shakespeare's Hamlet, one of literature's most psychologically intricate protagonists. Hamlet exemplifies complexity through internal conflict. His famous indecision isn't weakness but reflects deep moral contemplation. When his father's ghost demands revenge against Claudius, Hamlet doesn't simply act, he questions everything: the ghost's reliability, the morality of revenge, the nature of justice, the meaning of action versus contemplation. He struggles between competing imperatives, duty to his father's versus moral relevance or restraint, immediate action versus thoughtful deliberation. Personal revenge versus cosmic justice. He's distinguished by the mother's pre-marriage yet loves her. He's drawn to Ophelia, yet pushes her way. He philosophically questions existence, to be or not to be, while also being capable of violent action. These competing drives that create a psychological depth that has fascinated audiences or over 400 years. Hamlet isn't one thing. It's multiple contradictory impulses and tension. That's what makes him feel real. His motivations include love for his dead father, anger at his mother's perceived betrayal, attention to and the restraint of Ophelia, philosophical questions of existence, awareness of political corruption, fear of damnation, desire for certainty in an uncertain world. All these coexist, sometimes pulling him in opposite directions. Then let's go to dramatic techniques and conventions, Hamlet's choices and plots. Hamlet's character choices derive the plot toward its tragic conclusion. His fiend madness creates confusion and danger. Is he truly mad or performing madness? This choice isolates him and ultimately contributes to multiple deaths. His treatment of Ophelia, pushing her away despite apparent affection leads to her madness and death. His hesitation to kill Cludius at prayer extends the conflict and creates opportunities for complication. His impulsive killing of Polonius sets catastrophic events in motion. Each choice emerged from character rather than arbitrary plot requirements. We understand why Hamlet makes each decision, even when we might wish he choose differently. This makes the strategy feel both inevitable and deeply human. Notice the reciprocal relationship. Character creates plot reveals character, harmless, contemplative. Nature causes hesitation, creating the extended plot, the plot's complications, the play within a play. Ophelia's madness of final duel reveal different facets of Hamlet's character. This reciprocal relationship is what makes fiction feel alive and meaningful. Then let's go to the elements of fiction setting. Our third fundamental element is setting, far more than more backdrop. Setting encompasses cycle or physical location, historical period, social environment, cultural context, atmosphere, and the time's passage. It's not just where the story happens, but the complete world in which characters exist. A richly developed setting doesn't merely provide a backdrop for action, it actively shapes character behavior. People act differently in different environments. It influences plot developments. Certain events can only occur in certain settings. It establishes mood. Fog-shrouded London feels different from sun drenched California. It often symbolizes deeper themes. A decaying mansion might represent might represent social decline. The best settings become almost like characters themselves with their own presence and power within the narrative. Think of the Moors in Wuthering Heights, the Mississippi River in Huckleberry Finn, or dystopian London in 1984. These settings aren't interchangeable, they're essential to their stories' meanings. Components of setting. Setting consists of multiple interconnected components. Understanding these helps you analyze how setting function, time period, historical era, determining available technology, social norms, and cultural values. A story set in medieval times differs fundamentally from one set in digital age, not just in superficial details, but in what's possible for characters' communication, travel, medical care, social structures, belief systems all vary by period, geographical place, physical location with specific characteristics, climate and landscape, mountain environments differ from coastal ones, urban from rural, tropical from Arctic. Geography shapes daily life, economic possibilities, and even metaphorical meanings. Social environments, class structures, community dynamics, and interpersonal relationships. Is this a relatively hierarchical society or inter-relatively egalitarian? Is community tight, knit, or enemies? These social dimensions shape character in their actions and conflicts. Cultural context, beliefs, traditions, language, and the shared assumptions of the society. What are this cultural value? What taboos exist? What's considered normal versus transgressive? Cultural context determines what choices are valuable and what actions mean. Atmospheric conditions, weather, season, time of day, establishing mood and symbolism. Storm scenes often accompany emotional turmoil. Spring suggests renewal. Winter suggests death or democracy, darkness. Conceals light. Reveals these aren't arbitrary, they're symbolic pattern human recognize. Then let's go to settings influence. Setting profoundly affects how story unfolds. It's not a neutral background, but active force. A romance set in wartime faces different obstacles than one in peacetime. War creates urgent awareness of mortality, forced separations, moral complexities affecting relationship development. Peacetime romance faces different challenges: social disapproval, economic concerns, personal compatibility. A mystery in a logged manner differs from one in a bustling city. The manor's isolation limits suspects, but also limits investigative resources. You see, offers anonymity, crowds, multiple locations, different investigative possibilities. The same basic mystery plot feels entirely different in different settings. Characters' choices are constrained or enabled by their environment, both psychological and social. An aristocrat in 9th century in England faces different possibilities than for a farmer in the British era America. Gender matters differently across settings. Racial identity means different things in different times and places. Age, class, religion, nationality, all these identity factors interact with setting to determine what's possible for characters. Understanding setting means recognizing these constraints and possibilities. Authors choose settings deliberately to enable certain stories while for losing others. Example, Michael Alabama. Let's examine how Harper Lee uses setting in To Kill a Mockingbird. The novel is inseparable from its setting in 1930, small town Alabama. The setting isn't just the background; it's essential to the story's themes of racial injustice, societal or social hierarchy, and moral courage. In the Depression era South, rigid class structures determine character relationships. Everyone knows their place in the social hierarchy: old family versus you money, whites versus black, respectable versus disreputable. These hierarchies are deeply enforced through custom and law. Racial segregation laws make Tom Robinson's conviction almost inevitable regardless of evidence. The legal system reflects social prejudice rather than objective justice. This isn't just historical detail, it's the story central conflict. Community gossip networks mean everyone knows everyone else business. Privacy is nearly impossible. This creates both dangerous collective prejudice can destroy individuals and possibilities, individual moral courage becomes publicly visible, then potentially inspiring others. Say the cycle or the physical environment reinforces themes. The summer heats creates oppressive atmosphere, bashing social oppression. The tired old town with its specific architecture embodies the southern, the south's history and stagnation. Physical environment, the town's heat, its tight old town atmosphere and its architectural divisions between white and black neighborhoods physically embody social divisions. You can't separate uh, physical geography from social meaning. The railroad tracks don't just divide the town geography, they divide it radically and economically. The Finch house's porch becomes significant sitting where Scout and Jen sit with attics, where neighborhood children gather, where Bo Bradley eventually appear. It's a limited space between private and public safety and danger, childhood and difficult understanding, social conquest, makeups tight knit community where everyone knows everyone else. Business creates both possibility and injustice and remediation. Collective prejudice leads to Tom's Robinson's convention, but individual moral courage attacks defending time despite community pressure, making public impact preciously or precisely because it's visible to everyone. Understanding how Lee uses sitting helps readers appreciate how place and time aren't merely containers for action, but active forces shaping everything that happens. At the same time, the same story couldn't unfold the same way in a different time or place. Setting and story are inextricably linked. Understanding how Lee uses sitting helps readers appreciate how place and time aren't merely containers for action, but active forces shaping everything that happens. The same story couldn't unfold the same way in a different time or place. Sitting and story are inextricably linked. The elements of fiction theme, and we will finish with this one theme. Themes are the underlying ideas, messages, or insights about life that emerge from a story's complete pattern or characters, conflicts, and resolutions. Unlike a moral symbol or symbol lesson, these are complex, often ambiguous collaborations of fundamental human questions. They're rarely stated directly, and instead, readers must infer themes by examining how all the story's elements work together to suggest deeper meanings. A single work typically contains multiple interwoven themes that reveal different dimensions of the human conditions. Identifying themes to identify themes, look for pattern is in what characters struggle with, what the story repeatedly emphasizes, and what insights emerge from the resolution or lack thereof. Ask yourself, what questions does this story explore? What does it suggest about human nature, society, morality, or existence? Themes often emerge from the story's conflicts, not just what happens, but what those events mean. Themes are typically abstract concepts that can be expressed as complete ideas. For example, love isn't a theme, but love requires sacrifice, or love can be destructive. are thematic statements. The best themes resist simple formulation because they acknowledge life's complexity and contradiction. Common and universal themes: love and relationship, romantic love, familial bonds, family bonds, friendship, betrayal, loyalty, power and corruption, authority, resistance, justice, tyranny, social control, identity and self, uh, coming of age, self-discovery, alienation, belonging, variety and time, death, aging, legacy, memory, the passage of time, justice and morality, right and wrong, revenge, forgiveness, redemption, society and individual, comforty, rebellion, freedom, tradition versus change. Example, Oppression in 1984. George Orwell. George Orwell's 1984 explores multiple themes related to totalitarianism, uh, and control. The primary theme examines how absolute power corrupts through surveillance, propaganda, and the manipulation of language and memory. The party's slogan, "Who control the past controls the future," encapsulates the theme of power through historical manipulation. Reality and Truth. The novel also explores themes of objective reality versus subjective perception, asking whether truth can exist independently of those in power. Winston's struggle to maintain personal memory against official narrative dramatize this conflict. Reality and the Truth. The novel also explores themes of objective reality versus subjective perception, asking whether truth can exist independently of those in power. Winston struggled to maintain personal memory against official narrative, dramatize this conflict. Individual versus system. Another theme examines whether individual resistance is possible against overwhelming systematic oppression, ultimately suggesting a pessimistic answer while valuing the attempt itself. Exercise: read a short story excerpt and identify at least two themes. Look for repeated ideas, simple elements, and what the resolution suggests about the author's perspective on human experience. Remember that themes are debatable. Different readers may identify different themes, and that's part of the richness of literature. Thank you so much for watching me teaching you the first session of Introduction to Fiction. Until next time, Tata for now.